Well, it says we're live. Hello, everyone. It's 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, which is Central here in Costa Rica, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in London and most of Europe, 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. in Wednesday morning in Australia, and he's bored. So he's had enough. And it's Facebook Live. Well, my son is here. We celebrated his first birthday a little over a week ago, and he's just growing like a weed, and we're so very, very grateful. And this is what health is all about. And Mom is trying to get my phone to work to bring Facebook up. So in a moment it will, and I can say hello to everyone out there. But in the meantime, our special guest today is Christina Tidwell. Oh, she got it to work. Oh, you're right. He is cute on screen. It looks really nice. So I'm going to introduce Christina in just a moment, but now that I see it's working, I'm just going to say hello to the people who are early signing in. Maria Ribar is here. Hello, Maria. Charlene says happy birthday. Thank you, Charlene. Carol's here. Maggie's here. Charlene's in Fort Lauderdale. Tell us where you are around the world. It's always great to see that. And I'll do more of this in just a minute. But in the meantime, let me introduce you to Charlene. Well, actually, let me tell you a little about what we're doing tonight. And that's why Charlene is here. As everyone knows, you know, we're all about functional medicine and supporting people in improving their health through functional medicine principles. And it's very successful, and that's why you're here, is probably you've heard something about that or you've had an experience. But we found that there are ways to improve it, to improve the percentage of benefits that people get from putting their time and their resources into a functional medicine approach to getting better. And the most recent just came out, the most recent acknowledgement of this just came out in the New England Journal of Medicine. And I'm going to share my screen and show you a few slides, which explains why Charlene is here tonight. And then I'll do the introduction of Charlene. So this article came out in the...
Just a quick note, it's Christina.
Oh, it's Christina. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Christina, I'm so sorry, and thank you, Anne. And I'm not wearing my glasses, and it's a little box on the screen.
That's okay. I like the idea of Charlene as an alter ego, so I'll take it.
That's great. Well, thank you, Anne, and my apologies, Christina, and to your alter ego also. The New England Journal of Medicine published an article 2 years ago about the benefits of functional medicine. And the British Medical Journal just published this late last year. And what they did was they looked at, in Cleveland Clinic, we got functional medicine into Cleveland Clinic about 8 years ago. And when we got there, they gave us 1,800 square feet on a building on the back of the campus. And within 2.5 years, the Functional Medicine Center at Cleveland Clinic was the entire second floor of the main building. And there was a 2-year waiting list. And that's because it really works. And they published an article in the Journal of the American Medical Association about the results of that. And they showed that across the board, when they compared a functional medicine approach, so people coming to the Functional Medicine Center at Cleveland Clinic, with the standard conventional approach of the Family Medicine Center at Cleveland Clinic, the Functional Medicine Center patients did much, much better globally. It means if they had diabetes, their diabetes got better, but also their brain was working better, and their joints were better, and their energy was up, and they lost weight, meaning globally, the whole body improved dramatically more in functional medicine. And that's why we do what we do. Well, another paper came out, just this paper in the British Medical Journal, that compared the people who went to the Functional Medicine Center at Cleveland Clinic with the people who went to the Functional Medicine Center at Cleveland Clinic, and then also went to group sessions. And the geek term for that is shared medical appointments, SMAs, but it means group sessions. And they compared the results. And I want to show you what this study tells us. First, we know in functional medicine that these are some of the basic concepts of looking for the cause of the triggers. What are the triggers that are causing the illness? And all of you know this, and that's why you're here watching this tonight, is because you've heard something about or you've experienced functional medicine. While lifestyle medicine focuses on the prevention and improvement of chronic disease through lifestyle-based strategies, functional medicine employs a personalized diagnosis and management of what's going to work for this person, as opposed to general lifestyle principles. So functional medicine dials it down more. It's very attractive to all of us. First, the standard or the shared medical appointment focused heavily on food as medicine. You've all heard me say the most common trigger, environmental trigger for the inflammation in our body is what's on the end of your fork. You know, the first thing we always have to do is determine what's on the end of the fork. Is it healthy for us or not? There are no neutrals. The only neutral is healthy water. Everything else you put in is going to activate a response, either an anti-inflammatory response or an inflammatory response. So that's why food is of primary concern in food education. In individual appointments, patients are introduced to the concept of food as medicine and a food plan, where we recommend gluten-free diets and other modifications as needed for an individual. But patients may choose not to implement it, and that happens on occasion. You know, it's just they can't quite dial it in. They've got difficulty with it, and they fail to follow up with a dietitian, a nutritionist, or a health coach. You know, they just say, oh, I tried that, you know, I really can't do it, you know, and I'm having a hard time doing it. I'm trying, but I'm having a hard time. But recognizing these limitations, the shared medical appointment dedicates the majority of its visits to nutrition education, provided patients with educational tools, and fostered open discussions involving feedback, all of which are known to improve patient adherence. In this setting, patients learn from each other's illnesses and gain perspective about when you learn that somebody else, their blood sugar problems and their diabetes is getting fixed when they cleaned up the mold in their house, and you've never thought about mold in your house, but now maybe you're think, well, you know, maybe that shower curtain, that stuff that's on the shower, you'll start thinking differently because you learn from somebody else's experience. And I've seen this time and time again. Now, the word literacy usually means a person can read and write. And that's how I've learned the word literacy. But to health geeks that write these papers, like in the British Medical Journal, they use the word literacy to mean the ability, confidence, and willingness to engage with language to acquire, construct, and communicate meaning in all aspects of daily life. So our goal is to build health literacy in our patients. That's always our goal, so that they've got the ability, they've got the tools, they've got the confidence, they hopefully they get, you know, what we're explaining, and they're willing to engage. Our goal is always to build that. But what they find is that in the shared medical appointments, it focuses on health literacy. And the result is people learn so much more when their time goes into this group setting, as opposed to a one-on-one. Limited health literacy is recognized as a contributor to poor self-management and declining physical function in those with chronic conditions. They just don't understand how to do this. They don't quite get it. And they can't go back to the doctor, or the doctor doesn't have enough time, and they're not explaining things in a way that people understand it. They don't have health literacy on that topic that's of concern to them. The ability to improve health literacy in an individual appointment may be challenging due to available time, patient goals for the appointment, doctor's goals. You know, it may not happen. And sometimes it doesn't happen. But the shared medical appointment, the whole structure of this thing is set up that we develop literacy on our health issues by learning some topics and listening from other people. I'm so thrilled about this concept. I know I'm going on. I'll be done in a minute. Here's where the pedal hit the metal. In Cleveland Clinic, when they compared the people who went through the functional medicine center, who were doing so much better than the people in the family medicine center, but they look at those people and they compare them to the people who went through the functional medicine center and then did group visits, the results are 18 to 22% more improvement globally, meaning everything in their body, within 3 months than patients in the individual visits. It even beat out the functional medicine patients when they're functional medicine patients that do group visits. So when I read this science, I get quite excited. The shared medical appointment patients also experience greater weight loss than patients in individual appointments. The average was just over 3 pounds in 3 months. So a pound a month. And that they just stopped measuring at 3 months. And we're going to ask Christina more about the results in the shared medical appointments, we call them group visits, that she's already been running. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to bring up online with us Christina, who is the person in charge of shared medical appointments or group visits with my good friend, James Maskell. And James and I have known each other since we started in this health education world together. And he is so pure of heart to carry functional medicine out to the world and has been working on this for years and years and years and building programs to teach doctors about functional medicine, to encourage doctors to come to functional medicine centers. Well, now they've developed a whole program around group visits. So with that introduction, let me welcome Christina. Hello, Christina. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was a great introduction. I loved hearing all that about the shared medical appointments too.
Thank you. Yes, yes. The science, when the science comes back like that, it's difficult to not embrace it. I mean, you just can't argue with results. And when you see, and I've just not talked about group visits in the past, and we started looking at this late last year and realized that we can help more people spend less money and get better results by doing shared group visits. And that's why at theDr.com, we've transitioned over into bringing this opportunity to our people. So can we start with what brought you to the place that you're in right now? How is it that you're running this program for James?
Yeah, so my background is as a registered nurse, and I became a nurse because of my own experience with chronic illness, chronic autoimmune disease. So like a lot of us that get into this field, it was kind of by necessity and by just a drive to be able to figure out the roots, what's really going on. Like when you were talking about functional medicine at the beginning, what is that? That was really a big driver for me. So then I ended up getting certified in functional nutrition coaching and health coaching. And I've worked a lot with individuals through all different stages of health in our medical system and more outside of our medical system too. And I've worked one-on-one with a lot of people. But I started to see the power of groups and how groups can be really, really transformative and bring something else to the equation of healing that isn't always there in a one-on-one session. And so for me, I'm now really passionate about creating these groups and healing environments for people because I've been able to see in my own life how much it's helped me with chronic illness, which can be really isolating and really lonely. And I've been able to coach a lot of these groups and, create these programs and see the major benefits that they're having for people, which I can talk through more in depth as well.
Yeah, well, you can't argue with someone whose boots on the ground was suffering and arrested their own health condition. You just can't argue with somebody like that. It's now in your blood and you've just got to do it, which is really fabulous. Congratulations on your own journey and what you've gone through. And we all have those kinds of stories of what we're suffering from and where we want to go to. And this concept of shared group visits or shared medical appointments is just, now that it's dialed down so well, it's I can't not make this a top priority to share with everyone. You want more bang for your buck, you include group visits like this. I'll share one more thing on this one. Probably the most fun I've ever had in teaching. There have been a couple of talks that were really great that I had a lot of fun with, but I think the most fun was a couple of years ago. Our team put together a weekend experience for people. We invited people to come to Southern California for a Friday night dinner and then all day Saturday. And it was just a huge success, And it was a small group. It was only 18 people the first time, and that was too many. And then so 13 people the second time. And people had been everywhere. They'd done everything, and they were hoping that this event with me in person and my team might help them in ways that they hadn't been helped. And I can't emphasize enough the power of a number of people together who are suffering. They've got their own stories, they've got their own, but they're listening to another person who maybe it's rheumatoid arthritis and you've got diabetes, but you're hearing the frustration of what they've gone through. And it created such a safe container for those people that they really opened their hearts. And we were able to get down to what was the problem for that person? What is it? And for some people, I talk about the triangle of health. A triangle has 4 sides to it. There's a base, and that's your structure. There is the biochemistry, it's what we eat and drink and breathe. There's the emotional or spiritual, and then there's the electromagnetic. And all 4 sides have to be addressed when you have chronic complaints. And for so many of these people who had been everywhere and done everything, for the majority of them, the primary emergency brake holding back their healing was on the emotional spiritual side. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know. They didn't know that that's where the emergency brake was that was holding them back from all the great nutrition or diets or things they were doing. And I bring that up because I just want to dive into it. Have you found that experience in the group sessions yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what you said about chronic illness being really multifaceted. And when I say chronic illness, I mean, it can really mean anything from struggling with diabetes or autoimmunity, or even just fatigue, inflammation, all of this falls into that category. And it's multifaceted. And when we really get down to the roots, and we say, what's really going on here? We have to look through the, our pillars of health, really. So you mentioned nutrition, that's a really big one. But I will argue stress, like collectively, we've had a pretty stressful last couple of years. And so that's a really big driver of a lot of symptoms for people. And so if we're just addressing the nutrition, but we're not addressing the stress or the movement or the sleep or these other pieces, we might not find that we're getting anywhere. And it can be really frustrating. Like I've been in that place and I've helped a lot of people in that place. And so when we can start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, we can start to see much bigger shifts than if we're just kind of focusing in on one area. And by delivering these group programs kind of in a set container where we're able to go through these foundations of health together, we're really able to have time and space to explore these concepts because, you know, we can't just manage stress in a 15-minute visit. We need to integrate it into our life. And so a big part of these groups and coaching is really to take this knowledge and put it into action. So anyone that feels frustrated, like, okay, but I know all these things, or I've tried everything, I swear, you know, it's like, how can we help you to actually take that knowledge and put it into action? And that's why we've seen so much success.
That was my next question to you, that so many people that are here tonight, they know so much, you know, they know a lot. They've been working on this for a while. And you know, I'm going to make up the number. Let's say that the group sessions are, well, I'll ask you, are they once a week?
Though in our 6-month container, we actually do them once a month live sessions, but they're going to be twice a month because they're going to get some live Q&As from you. So
That's right.
Anyone within these groups gets a lot of support.
So, okay, so let's say it's an hour session. Now with me, it'll probably be longer because I always go longer, but let's say it's an hour. So that's going to be 12, 15 hours of knowledge, of being in active communication. That's overwhelming. You know, listening to me for 5 minutes can be overwhelming. I tried to not let that happen, but I'm guilty, right? So, but it's overwhelming. How does a shared medical appointment, a group visit, diffuse that overwhelming factor?
Yeah, it's such a good question because I think we're all pretty overwhelmed. There's so much information out there these days about what we could or should do for our health. And what we really do is take a coach approach to this. So when we are in these live sessions, we're getting some information, but we're actually really working to teach you how to take this information and integrate it as a skill. So teaching behavior change as a skill. And that's what we really get to do in a group. We get to have these really rich discussions around, okay, this is my, plan that I'm going to be doing for nutrition, but hey, it's really hard to figure out what to eat that my entire family is going to eat. Amazing. We have, 15 other people who are in the exact same boat as you on the exact same journey who can help. And we bring time and space to these issues that we don't actually get to talk about very often because it can be really hard, to integrate some of these changes. So
I've got a question.
It's going to be different. Yeah.
There's a question from Sarah that really
Sure.
demonstrates what I'm asking. My 7-year-old son has Crohn's disease. We've been on clean diet, following with 2 different natural medicine doctors, cleaned out everything. We've done everything. We are not going anywhere with this, and we couldn't figure out the root cause of the disease. I'm not sure what else to do. Mm-hmm. How do we answer that? What can a shared medical appointment bring for Sarah?
Yeah. And firstly, I hear that. And it can be really frustrating you are doing everything. You are doing great things. What I would say is that a lot of times it's putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So we know with Crohn's, I work a lot with autoimmunity. There is a big mind-body connection as well. And there's a big nutrition connection. And so it really is about figuring out consistency of kind of like bringing some of these pieces together. Because if we're just kind of working in one area, we might feel like, oh my gosh, I've tried this, it doesn't work. Let me drop that and move on to the next thing. Okay, now I'm going to try turmeric. Okay, turmeric didn't solve all my problems. So now I'm going to move on to meditation. That didn't solve everything. So it's normal and natural to kind of go through this process and feel frustrated. But what we need to do is actually bring all of the pieces together in a functional way. So in that case, it really is having sort of a plan and guidance to help you do that. In this program, we go through 6 pillars of health. So you're going to hit everything. You're not going to miss anything. And then it really is having someone hold your hand a bit to say, all right, what's working? What's not? What's standing in your way? How can I help you?
When you refer to the 6 pillars of health, what are those 6 pillars?
Yeah, so our first pillar is community. We have it as community, and it really is creating this community and foundations. I mean, we've seen with community, there was a 2010 meta-analysis, and it found that the influence of social relationships or community on the risk of mortality was comparable with risk factors like smoking, alcohol consumption, and exceeded influence of other risk factors like physical inactivity. So it's huge. It makes a really big difference, and we don't often focus on it. The other pillars are things that everyone here is going to be familiar with and no doubt, worked on, which are going to be nutrition. It's going to be stress management. It's going to be movement, sleep, and then our environment and toxins and things that are coming into our body. So those are really the core of functional medicine principles, but we've added on the community component because a magic really happens when you create a supportive community that are all focused on the same thing.
That's a really good point. And your 6 pillars are looking more globally than what I refer to as the 4 pillars is looking at the categories of environmental triggers that are coming in. And in those categories of environmental triggers, there's structure. That's the home of chiropractic. Sometimes chiropractors get miracle results if it's a structural problem. There's biochemistry, there's the emotional or spiritual, and there's the electromagnetic. Those are the 4 pillars. But I want to show everyone, I just pulled up another couple of slides. I want to show everyone about the impact of community. And Christina, I don't know if you're familiar with this one or not, but let's bring it up because it makes for great discussion in groups. So let me bring this up here. There we go. And this also is from the New England Journal of Medicine, and the topic is network medicine. We can certainly call it community oriented. That obesity has a genetic component is not surprising. Researchers have known that for a long time. Change the slide here. But a recent study identified that those that carry a very well-known gene for obesity, they have a increased risk of about 30% if they carry that gene. But the risk if they carry 2 genes, because people get one from their mother, one from their father, if they carry 2 genes, it's 67% of those people will develop obesity. And in my world, I talk about if you pull on a chain, it breaks at the weakest link, and it can be at one end, the middle, the other end, wherever the weak link is, that's where the chain's going to break. And so what they're showing here is that if you've got 2 genes, FTO genes for obesity, that is a weak link for you. And 67% of the people with that will develop obesity. But that's genetics. And that's really important because 1/6 of the population of people of European descent carry that gene. They carry 2 versions of that gene. So it's really, that's what homozygous means. And so it's important to know about that gene. But this is what's so jaw-dropping. Friends have an even more important effect on whether a person develops obesity or not. The authors observed that when 2 persons perceived each other as friends, if one friend became obese during a given time interval while they're friends, the other friend's chances of becoming obese were 171%. Among pairs of adult siblings, if one sibling became obese, the chance the other would become is increased by 40%. So brother and sister, it's 40%. But if some people are closer to their friends than they are to their siblings in terms of day-to-day life, they share more of day-to-day life. The results of this study also indicate that obesity is clustered in communities. For example, the risk that the friend of a friend of an obese person would be obese was about 20% higher. And we've heard of 6 degrees of separation. This effect vanished only by the 4th degree of separation. I mean, it's startling. It's startling how the people that we associate with have an impact that we don't recognize on who we are and how our health and what we become. And that's why there's motivation speakers that say if you're hanging out with people that bring you down, you're going to be down, right? So if you're hanging out with people that want to be healthy in a shared medical visit, in a group setting, you're going to have more positive influence to get the results you're looking for. So that's just another way of saying it. So, and have you had that experience? You've got some statistics from some of your groups, Christina. Can you share some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have seen that in groups, because a lot of times people, maybe they will get information of, okay, I got to lose weight or I've got to make this change, but then they go back into the daily life and their family and community that may not be on the same path. And it's really hard to go against that. So if you have this connection, this touch point with a group, we've seen people really skyrocket in their goals just by having that. And you can see why with that data. So yeah, our data that we pulled from several of our groups last year. Let me just pull it up here so I can tell you. Yeah, so we noticed decreases in many areas, and some of which we were actually even surprised to see. So people that were experiencing chronic pain, we saw a 65% decrease in that. People that are experiencing anxiety, it was a 61% decrease.
Yeah, excuse me, I want to stop there.
Yeah.
These are people who have already been to a bunch of different doctors for their complaints. So let's remember that. So these are people like everyone that's here tonight who are looking, trying to learn what's going to work for you and your family. These are not people that have some chronic pain, they're going to the doctor for the first time and they decided to do a group visit. These are people that have been suffering for years. So even a 10% improvement would be dramatic. So I want to set that stage so people understand what these numbers mean. Because when I saw these numbers from you guys, my jaw dropped. I literally said, what? That convinced me that theDr.com is making that transition from individual one-on-ones, and we'll talk more about that later, but to shared group sessions, because you get more bang for your buck, you get more result in shared group sessions. So please continue with your numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are big numbers, right? Like I worked in healthcare and in nursing in many different areas, and these are big numbers. So we saw that people who were experiencing above average anxiety, there was a 61.3%, 62% decrease in that. Depression, we saw a 75% decrease.
Wow.
And also fatigue was a 75% decrease as well, which I don't know who's not experiencing fatigue. And that's such a big one that can be really hard to troubleshoot. Sleep disturbance, we have a whole section on sleep because it, influences so many other things in our life. That was around 72% decrease. And social struggles, so those who are experiencing above average struggles participating in social roles, that difficulty decreased by about 35%. So that was a really big deal for a lot of people who were isolated or just unable to perform activities of daily living as well.
These are dramatic numbers, just dramatic. Once again, when I saw that, I knew there's no way that I could not support this concept, because people get more bang for your buck, you get better results for your time and your investment of time and dollars, and your family, changing foods and doing everything that you will begin to do. And this is just dramatic. There's a number of comments. Deborah says the group support is why Al-Anon and AA work. People no longer feel alone in their journey. Rita says, thank you, Christina, for such good explanations and giving up your valuable time. Love listening to you, Dr. Tom. So calming and informative. I'm calming? Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. That's really nice. Karen's here from Orilla, Ontario. Rita says, need more of these get-togethers worldwide. Amen, Rita. That's our goal here. People from all over the world can join these group sessions that we're forming here. That's why we're doing this. I'm sure Anne's posting the link. Yeah, I see it, shared medical visits from theDr.com. So the link is there. It's theDr.com /HealCommunity, all one word. And as a result of that, you'll learn all about what we're doing. I'm going to be on every month with you guys. I'm going to be answering questions and live with you. Angela says, have to go to work. Thank you for your always great information, attention to educate and help. Well, thank you, Angela. Good luck tonight at work. Hope it goes well. Jean's here from Kansas. Rita says, is Christina in the US?
Yes, I'm in California.
Ah, nice. Whereabouts in California?
I'm in Topanga Canyon, just outside
that's
of LA.
right. We talked about that last week.
We did.
That's right. Yeah. A beautiful area, really magical area.
It is.
Al asks, can functional medicine benefit someone who has spinal fluid leaks? If so, how? Well, Al, the key here is, why do you have spinal fluid leaks? What is the trigger that's causing this? I'm assuming you're an adult, so this is not something you were born with. So it's something that developed. So the question is, why has that developed? And it would take a pretty advanced functional medicine practitioner, I think. Maybe not. And I'm not sure that is the kind of thing, Christina, I'll let you answer this one in terms of, is shared medical appointments, I don't know how that would connect with this particular syndrome.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that could be kind of an acute scenario or something going on. So you wouldn't necessarily go into a group visit thinking, okay, I'm going to figure out exactly how to address the spinal leak. Like, that's more of an acute thing. But I will say, if there's any kind of imbalance or disease going on in the body, it's likely because there's imbalance going on at the roots. So, you know, being able to come into this program, even if you've got, you know, immune issues, or you've got some things that are out of balance in your body, being able to work on these foundations and these pillars is going to help bring everything into line so your body has more resilience to be able to move forward. But we're not going to be necessarily talking specifically about spinal fluid leaks. That's something you got to talk to your doctor about, and we can help you bring all those pieces together, if that makes sense.
It does. I'll give you another example, Al. You know, on the weekends that I referred to that we've had in the past, 13 people and 18 people, someone had a problem with cognitive decline, and they'd been everywhere and they couldn't figure out why, and their food was exceptional, and they're crossing T's and dotting I's all across the board. And someone else was up front talking about their problem, and they had just recently discovered, but because we did a bunch of tests for them, that it was mold in their house that was causing their blood sugar problem. And as I'm talking about mold, I'm just talking about, well, you know, you breathe it in, it goes right up straight to the brain. They're the only nerves in the body that have no screen before they go to the brain. There are no filters, no screens of the olfactory nerves. Every other nerve in your body has some kind of safeguard to protect, make sure nothing goes up into the brain, except your sense of smell. Right, it goes right back there. So if you're breathing mold and someone realized, oh, well, you know, I've got a moldy curtain, because I was talking about, oh yeah, I got a moldy curtain, but he never thought he had a problem in his house. And it turned out that's where his cognitive decline was coming from, was what he was breathing. So I don't know that we can tell you spinal leaking, where it's coming from directly, but as Christina has said, and we're taking the time for this one because it's a very specific question, but this relates to everyone. It doesn't matter what your symptoms are. It doesn't matter that as you learn more of what a balanced lifestyle and where the triggers are for others in the group, that you're hearing, those triggers, well, oh gosh, oh, I used to eat tuna fish all the time. Well, I don't eat anymore, but oh, I'd have tuna fish 2-3 times a week. Well, maybe you got mercury poisoning. And that might be the trigger for whatever it is. And you wouldn't have thought about heavy metals because your diet's really clean. But when you hear someone else talking about and discovering what the trigger is for them, it may turn the light bulb on for you. I would love to find a good functional medicine doctor who I could start seeing. The problem is that my family practice doctor doesn't even know of any around me that she could refer me to. What can a person do to find one if they want to find someone they can visit? Well, the first thing, you go to ifm.org, that's the Institute for Functional Medicine, and click on Find a Practitioner, and you look for somebody that's certified. That means they've gone through all the training. But a lot of people, Christina, I've heard a lot of stories in shared group visits that people that didn't have a doctor that they were working with at the time, that they went through the shared group visits, and they had some dramatic ahas that changed their life. Is that your experience?
Yeah, I think, part of why we started this company, HealCommunity, and why James started this is because there is a gap for people in wanting to access functional medicine care, whether it's that there's not a doctor that lives in your area that you can't reach, or sometimes it's cost prohibitive, or, there's many different reasons. So by being able to actually deliver some of these really foundational concepts in a group and really help, like when you're talking about your triangle, it is kind of like filling in some of these gaps for people. Because if we fly ourselves to a doctor and maybe we spend a lot of money doing that, and that's great, and they give us a big plan of what we can do, then we come back home and we might need support in the day-to-day. We might need support in implementing and integrating this. And so what we've found is it's really helpful to be able to deliver these functional medicine principles through coaching. So that's what our scope is, through coaching. You're going to be with us in your Q&As. So that's, you're bringing your scope to it too, to really help you take this functional medicine approach. So, we want you to be working with a doctor and making sure that you're supported in all the ways you need to be. But a huge reason why we're offering this is, there can be a big gap in access, just like whoever submitted that was saying.
Right. Al asked the question, by what means can functional medicine benefit senior citizens experiencing repetitive UTI events? That's a really good question, Al. And it doesn't matter if it's recurrent chest pain, or losing your hair, or having autoimmune thyroid disease, or repetitive UTIs. It doesn't matter what the symptoms are. It matters to you, and I don't mean to minimize that at all, right? But what matters is to get you feeling better as quickly as possible, but get to the underlying trigger that's causing the weak link in your chain to manifest. Your chain always breaks at the weakest link. And for this question, it's urinary tract infections. That's the weak link. So don't pull on the chain so hard. Well, what's the chain? The pull on the chain is inflammation. And you're going to learn so much about that in every one of the sessions, the triggers of inflammation. And you're going to find out that what you thought, well, I don't have any inflammation. You can't have an infection if you don't have inflammation. By definition, an infection is inflammation. It's the immune system fighting something. Bacterial infections usually, but the question is, why is all that happening? So if you're suffering with infections, that is a chronic inflammatory state. So, and that inflammation is the pull on the chain. So we have to identify, where is the pull on the chain coming from? And then how do you implement the checklist? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And how do you do that? And what we find now, the New England Journal of Medicine, the British Medical Journal, the Journal of the American Medical Association have all shown functional medicine is more effective than conventional medicine. And functional medicine with shared group visits is even more effective. So this is coming from the traditional medical circles now. So it's a great question. And the key is, where is it coming from? And I'm assuming that this is coming from a person who's had recurrent infections, been given antibiotics, helps for a little bit maybe, then the infection comes back again. My mother died from recurrent urinary tract infections. It eventually caused sepsis, which is the #1 cause of death in elders in hospitals. 1.7 million people a year get sepsis, of which 250,000 die. This is in the US. #1 cause of death in hospitals for elders is sepsis. And that comes from recurrent urinary tract infections commonly. There's other mechanisms, but this is a common one. So you need to find out, where is these infections coming from? And I can't think of a better way of doing it than starting with the shared group visits. Can't think of a better way. Christina, anything you want to add to that?
No, that you said it wonderfully. Yeah, it's finding the roots. And I saw someone else ask too, is there a focus in the groups? The groups will be around reducing inflammation, anti-inflammatory, and looking at these pillars that we talked about, because nutrition is a huge component, but all of these other pieces will influence it as well. So you'll have kind of a roadmap and guide for how to do that.
We have a really good question from Jennifer. I would like to know how you suggest managing multiple sclerosis with diet and lifestyle. Do you have 3 hours? Right. I understand the question, Jennifer. I truly understand the question. It comes out of a sense of a strong need. But there is no cookbook plan to deal with any degenerative disease. The plan is to identify what, so personalized medicine is, personalized functional medicine is when you look at what is it for this individual that's triggering the MS. Now, we know the science is really clear. Just Google gluten and MS. Some people, gluten's the trigger, pulling on the chain, breaking at the link of the myelin on your nerves. For some people, a small percentage, about 5%. But just, and then Google bacterial infection and MS. And for some people, it's bacterial infections. The list goes on and on. But certainly you always have to address foods when you're dealing with an autoimmune disease, because when you've got an autoimmune disease, you've been throwing gasoline on the fire for a number of years, long before you ever had a symptom. The average is 7 years, but it depends on the autoimmune disease. Some are more, some are less. I lecture on this all over the world, that when you start getting symptoms, you're pretty far along down the path of that autoimmune mechanism. So to the question of how do you suggest managing MS with diet and lifestyle, you have to find out what foods and what lifestyle this person is living. And Christina, how could a group, the group sessions be a support for someone asking this type of question?
Yeah, I think, like you were saying, it is really figuring out what are all the pieces that are kind of leading to that. Sometimes we think of it as like a bucket overflowing. So we know with autoimmunity, of course, there's going to be some degree of genetic component. You can talk more about that, but so much of it is also our epigenetics and the influence of what we're doing, what we're putting into our body, and how we're living on a daily basis. So although there's many things we can't control, there are a lot of things we can massively influence. And so working, in this group, we work over a like 24-week container. So we have time, right? Because these things take time. And we don't want to just give you information for a couple weeks and then say, see you later. We really want to help you figure out how to integrate this into your life. So as you move through figuring out, what does it mean to reduce inflammation for me in the pillar of nutrition? how is stress affecting my gut, my immune system, my nervous system, my hormones, in another month in pillar, and going through in kind of like a sequential order to make sure that you're really, again, putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. I've worked with a number of people with chronic autoimmune disease, and again, I myself have had that, and I found that it really wasn't. It's never one thing. It's never one thing. And that's what you were saying, Dr. Tom, too. And I echo that. I really wanted it to be one thing. It would have been awesome if it was one thing, but it's not. And so we understand that in these groups, and we really help support you in your own journey to figure out, well, what are all those things that are influencing this development of a disease state?
Right. Really good answer. Really good. Al asks the question, what diets, foods, recipes can provide critical help to an underweight person, senior female, to assist in safely and effectively gaining weight over a reasonable amount of time? Thanks. You have to find out why this person's malnourished. Why are they not absorbing nutrients, assuming they're being fed, they're eating adequate amounts of food. You have to figure out why it's happening, Al. I don't know of any one diet or food or recipes. I understand the question. I read the question as coming out of a sense of desperation, that I'm really looking. So what diet's going to do, or what foods are going to work, or can you give me some recipes or something? And I call that approach shotgun medicine. You're just kind of firing something in the direction and hopefully it's going to stick. And there's nothing that can take the place of an investigation. And if you don't have a functional medicine practitioner right now that's doing all the testing and identifying for you, starting with the shared group visits is a great place, because you're going to hear somebody else talking about they couldn't gain weight, or their son, and he was eating like a horse, and he was the skinniest kid in the class. Or you're going to hear some story, you're going to hear some thing that is familiar for you that's going to get you, well, maybe, and then you're going to check this, and you're going, oh, well, that's true. Oh, and you're going to find a path. That's the goal here, is because you can't get a functional medicine practitioner to sit down with you for 12 hours without paying them I shouldn't say tens of thousands of dollars, but it's a lot of money to have somebody that you're working with visit after visit after visit trying to do this. This is a great place to start. And from here, you might hear of a practitioner that's been really successful with what you're looking to deal with. For example, the question on MS, that person asking about MS, I would go to Dr. Terry Walls. She's got great programs because she's done great with that. And MS is a very serious disease. And so you do group sessions. And when you want an individual practitioner, you may consider someone like Dr. Terry Walls. Oh, let's see. Acid is vital for digestion. How do I know I have enough acid? I suffer acid reflux and sometimes have to sit up at night. What do you advise as to the first steps to help? Thank you, Peter. So Christina, when a question like that comes up in a group session, what happens?
Yeah, we're all so different and so unique. It sounds like Peter, who submitted that, has a good awareness of a couple of things that are going on. So that's awesome. We have different tools to support the investigation. I think something like that, maybe some food and symptom journaling to help you understand more about what's actually happening. Like, when are you noticing these symptoms in the day? Like, we have to keep asking why to understand. Again, we all want kind of that matching the symptom to a fix, right? But when it comes to some of these things that have been frustrating for us, we see that that's not the case. So, recommending something like food and symptom journaling and getting some support with what you've noticed with that. Also, we cover digestion and talking about the 5 R's of digestion. So looking top to bottom, what are some of the things you need to do to support a functioning digestive system? And how can nutrition support you too? I've dealt with stomach acid issues myself, and I'll tell you, stress is a really big one too. So, investigating all these different pieces and helping you inquire a little bit more about what's going on. So obviously in a group setting, we're not working one-on-one with each person there, and functional medicine is so individualized, but we really help to empower you to create this amazing awareness for yourself so that you can be in the driver's seat. And we help you do that. It can be scary to be in the driver's seat, but ultimately groups are really, really helpful for bringing up awareness, offering suggestions, ideas, being able to have more time and space to talk through some of these issues, and then also getting education and getting materials that can help you, specifically around troubleshooting digestion, because that's such a big one for inflammation.
Great answer. Thank you. I find that finding a group that supports each other creates a sense of belonging and helpful, but I find one-on-one coaching very effective as well to dig deeper. What would be the best approach? How would you answer that, Christina?
So we actually offer both in the group program. I didn't mention that, I just realized, but we have our live group coaching sessions that happen once a month. And then there'll be live Q&As with Dr. Tom as well that are happening in the month. And then we also offer some one-on-one check-ins with your coach as well. So you do get some of that one-on-one support, because I agree, it's helpful to be able to talk to someone and bring something you're working on. So we, in addition to the one-on-one support with your coach, health coach, we also have this community hub that you have access to ask questions, to talk to your other group mates, to receive resources and things like that. So you're getting a lot of support for an entire, 24-week period. So you can feel really held and supported. That's the goal. And that's how we want everyone to heal and be able to create these environments where that you've got a lot of people cheering you on, and you have a space to ask these questions.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And that just resonates so well. A lot of people cheering you on. It makes such a difference in empowering people to take the next step, I signed up for HealCommunity. I've worked with Dr. Tom and his team in the past, and I'm excited. But I've been vegetarian since 1990, and you've recommended I eat meat. The idea makes me freeze, unable to move forward. Can we work with this?
Yeah, so this is someone that signed up.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, welcome, first of all. And yes, thank you for the question. Everyone's really individual, and we're going to say that time and time again, and especially when we're in a group, right? So we honor that. We honor bio-individuality. We don't take a super dogmatic approach to nutrition, because really, truly, everyone is very, very, very different. So absolutely, we can work with that. We don't want anyone to be eating anything or doing anything they don't want to do. Ultimately, this is a group for health coaching, and this is an empowerment group. So it's a little bit different than one person telling you all the things and you having to do them. It really is a group setting and a coaching setting to help you figure out what's right for you. And it sounds like you already have a really good knowledge and start on what's right for you. So that's amazing. So we build off of that. And we have, of course, we have suggestions, we have resources, we have plans for you and things like that, but everything can be tailored. Nothing is dogmatic. It's really what works for you is what works for you. And ultimately, that's what we help you to figure out.
I've got one more component. That's a great answer, and that's what I was quite sure you were going to say. But if I'm your doctor and you're a vegetarian and you're coming to me with complaints, I'm going to do a urine amino acid test, and we're going to see how much protein you're getting. And if you're depleted in protein and your symptoms are based on protein deficiency, I'm going to tell you, you need to eat more protein. And irrespective of what your beliefs are, this is what's happening in your body. So when you see this, let's try to get this protein up any way we can for you. And that's what health coaches do, is work with your preferences and what you're willing to do and not do. That's their job, right? But at the end of the day, you know, our theme at theDr.com is making it easy to do the right thing. But it's only when you understand what is going on that you can do the right thing. You know, we may have a belief about something. I remember I was vegetarian for about 3 months when I was 20 years old. And I found it just didn't work for me. I really wanted to, but it didn't work. But I honor it. And for people who want to be vegetarian, they have to do more work to get enough protein. And if you currently are protein deficient, that's an inflammatory state pulling on the chain, producing the symptoms you're currently having. And you may have to make some choices about the types of foods or the dollar amount of your foods. I don't know what the choices are going to be, but we will always give you the information so you can make the most balanced choice for yourself. It's not a decision. You know, to decide something, you have to kill something. It's this or that, decide, meaning you killed that, like homicide, genocide, suicide, you're killing. But when you make a choice, you look at both options here. This is what I believe. This is what I really want to do with my life. And this is what my current body is telling me. And I need to get this to be a little healthier. And so then you'll make some choices about how to do that. Some vegetarians have gone to eating fish a couple times a week, and they feel, okay, I'll try that. You know, and some won't. It's up to you. But our job is to give you as much information as we can on that one. We have time for a couple more questions. So let's see. How is migraine classified as a disease? How do you suggest getting family on board with making changes in all the areas with me? I can imagine that is a great feature of the group, right? Okay, so let's take there's 3 questions there. How is migraine classified as a disease? I don't know how to answer that question. How do you suggest getting family on board with making changes in all the areas with me? And for that one, Christina, if you want to take a shot at that.
Yeah, that's definitely a health coach area that we focus a lot on, because it's going to happen. You know, you might be on a different journey than your family. And so one of the first pieces is getting really clear on your why. Why are you doing it? Because it can be hard when you're with the rest of the family and they might not be on the same page. So getting clear for yourself, why is it important to you, let's say, to remove gluten and no one else is doing that? Why? What's it going to give you? Really anchor into that for yourself. And then for your family, you know, for me, I went through a phase of trying to like force everyone around me to do the things I wanted, and that didn't work so well. So I've learned a lot that you can't really necessarily fix someone else around you or change something else around you, but living by your own example really works well. So if you found that you want to cut out gluten and that makes a really big difference to you, when your family or people around you start to see that you are losing weight or you have more energy or you have less joint pain, they're naturally going to become curious about those things and ask you. So, you know, I find that's a good way to approach it. We also give a lot of tips and tricks in the group on logistically, how do you do that? What's a great meal that you can make where you can substitute what you need, but the rest of the family can throw on their cheese or their whatever if you're avoiding that. You know, so we have a lot of ideas, and you'll find that a lot of other people in the group have the exact same experiences as you. Many people come to group thinking that they are the only ones who have ever had to struggle with their family not being on board, or you know, with the symptoms that they're having. And what we find every time is people say, wow, it is so amazing to know I'm not alone in this. And so even just getting that information from other people, I can tell you all my tips and tricks, but you're going to learn a lot from the other people that are in the group with you as well about this. So hopefully that helps to answer your question a little bit. That's how I approach it.
That's a great answer. Thank you. We have 62 unanswered questions. What that tells me is that people are really interested in knowing more. They really want to, so how does this work and how that work? So go to the link, theDr.com /HealCommunity. I think that's what the link is. It's posted here, whatever the link is. Sorry, I'm supposed to know that. But I think it's the dr.com /HealCommunity. Ann will post it again here at the bottom of this. And just look through it, read it, listen to the information. And I'm hoping that you'll consider this. I think that this is a great tool that's going to help larger amounts of people more globally. So not just with weight gain, but maybe that person's depression, if they had depression, is going to reduce by 63% or 74%, I think was the number for depression. That globally, everything just starts working better for you. That's what I really like about this. And thank you all for being here tonight. Christina, thank you. Look forward to seeing you again soon. We'll be talking a lot.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much. I was going to say too that the groups, we have groups that are enrolling for next week. So we can start as early as next week too. You'll get all the information there and you'll get support with that. But yeah, starting next week.
Marvelous, marvelous. Thank you again. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.